Welcome, welcome. Welcome to how to do virtual events as fundraisers and how to change the world while you work. That is where you are. You are on a training about how to combine a virtual event, any kind of a virtual event, a virtual video event, a webinar, a multi-day video series, or like a 2 or 3 day event like you saw us do, how to combine that with a fundraiser as a way to build brand awareness and as a way to change the world while you work. I am so excited for this topic. Vivian and I have been planning out this training for a few days, and Vivian and I are going to debrief the event and what set up such a powerful fundraiser. What's really cool is this opportunity to not just partner with one organization potentially, but to over the years, align your brand with different organizations that mean something to you. Clean Ocean Action, Women for Women International. So this is something that our clients are working on all year long, is hosting virtual events and partnering those virtual events, partnering those marketing efforts with humanitarian causes and giving back as a way to build their brand. But today, I really want to go through what I believe are like the 3 tenets, the 3 most important things that you've got to do when you think about how to set up a fundraiser as part of a virtual event, how to let people know about your humanitarian efforts in a way that's classy and humble and inclusive, so that it can really grow your brand and not take away from your brand, or not have you come off as somebody who's like a white savior, right? For lack of a better term, right? We've got to do this with sensitivity. And Vivian and I were very strategic in the way we set up the fundraiser that you were all a part of. And I'm super proud to say in the last 18 months, we've been able to not just raise $11,000 for Just Like My Child, but we've been able to raise, something to the tune of like almost $90,000 for Just Like My Child. Because a year ago, March, Vivian and I partnered to do our first live event fundraiser in a live room of 500 women. And in that live room, some of you were probably there, we raised $75,000 in one day. And so what you can do in a live room is very inspiring. And when Vivian and I sat down to plan out the virtual event, neither of us really knew how it was going to go. I knew that we weren't going to be in person. So I knew that we weren't going to be able to create that same feeling of like, hey, I have $100 in my pocket that I got back as a refund to this event. Why don't I just hand over this $100 bill, right? We had a lot of that happening at the live event because we gave people back a $100 seat deposit. And a lot of people at that live event chose to just hand their $100 over when we did the fundraiser. And so there were all of these different forces that went into raising that much money. And I said to Vivian, I hope we can raise $5,000. Like, I hope we can raise $5,000, and, I'll donate half of that if I need to. I just want to do something. Right. And so the fact that we were able to raise $11,000 at a virtual event with less people was amazing. It was a huge win. And there were some very deliberate things that we did to set up that fundraiser that had it be as successful as it was.
Wow, thank you. And thank you so much for your partnership and your support, and to all of the amazing women who showed up for your virtual event and who chose to make a difference. And I just want to say that you can't even imagine what a gift it is to our courage and our commitment to keep going when we get the kind of feedback and input that we got from this group and from Women Rocking Business. It's just inspiring to be seen and to get that kind of affirmation from such a group of amazing entrepreneurs. So thank you.
Okay, so let's just dive in. The first thing to know about doing a virtual event fundraiser is that it's so critical to build the fundraiser into the storyline of the event and not just have it be a fundraiser where you kind of or talking about one thing 1 minute, and then all of a sudden you're doing a fundraiser the next minute. Does it make sense, you guys? So you want to really think about that transition. You want to think about, how do I position this fundraiser as a content piece that is part of the event? So that's really number one. And it's super critical. It's a big part of what's going to have the fundraiser come off as something that is a contribution to the audience, and not a takeaway from what they showed up for. Okay. So first of all, you want to do some teaching first, right? You don't want to actually just get on, day 4 of a video training and go straight into a fundraiser, right? You want to give them something first, whatever they came to get, whether it's relationship advice, health guidance, career support. You want to give them some tips, give them something first, and then start to get creative about, how can you transition from the content you're teaching into your own expression of why this cause matters to you. Right? Vivian told me when we were setting this up, especially with social unrest, coming to the surface on the planet, Vivian said, we're going to want to be really respectful. We're going to want to really be vulnerable in terms of positioning this opportunity so that it doesn't land in the wrong way. And Vivian was just so right about that. And so we thought a lot about how to transition from talking about your message and your brand to talking about a partnership with a humanitarian cause. So for us, that was pretty easy, right? When you're launching a message into the world, one of the pieces of that message can be, what do you stand for? What are your values? How do you want to give back to the world? Right? So that was our storyline. That was how our content flowed. The first day of the event was all about message clarity. So it was a smooth transition for me to start talking about how growing my business hasn't always it's never just been about helping women start businesses, which is for sure the heart of my business. But another thing I'm passionate about is women giving back. And for you, you're going to want to think about it in terms of your brand. Here's an example. My client, Sophia Tom, she has a business out of Costa Rica, and she helps women honor their bodies as their greatest source of wisdom. She calls it your temple body. Well, she partnered with an organization in LA that supports women who have been abused. And at her last event, she raised thousands of dollars for women that have been abused by making the link between, hey, if we're going to start taking care of our bodies as our temples, I'd like to take a moment to invite you to be a part of that love that we're giving our own bodies, spilling out over into other women who are also struggling with their bodies and abuse. Another example is that my client, Robin Nielsen, who some of you met at the Women Rocking Business event, she helps women balance their hormones. Well, she's a stand for women's health on the planet. And at her last event, she partnered with a medical organization in India that helps women in India get the medical support they need. And so she was able to make that link between her stand for women's health and standing for not just the health of the women that she was training at that event, but standing for women's health globally and making a humble request for the women at her training to be a part of that stand with her. Right. And so you can see how that transition goes. It starts with you teaching. Here's a few tips, right? Here's a few tips. Here's some strategies you can use for yourself. Here's what I stand for. Here's what's important to me. And I'm wondering if we could take a few minutes for you to stand alongside me in making a difference in this way. Okay. So that's kind of the storyline. One of the quotes that we brought into the event is my favorite quote. This was something that I think really, the energy of this quote was really alive in our fundraiser, because we didn't want, again, to be coming from a place of being a savior. And I think this is a quote that we can all use. Maybe somebody can drop it into the chat, right? If you are coming to help us, don't waste your time. But if you are coming because you realize your liberation is bound up with ours, then let's work together. Right? That was a message from Pachamama, a message from Lynn Twist, a message from an Achuar chief. in indigenous territory in Ecuador. But I'll say that one more time. And if somebody could type that into the chat, I think this is a great quote to pop into a slide or to let people know what you're really standing for here, not being a savior, right? If you're coming to help us or if you're coming to save us, don't waste your time. But if you're coming because you realize that your liberation is bound up with ours, then let's work together. And that's a message from an indigenous chief in Ecuador. And that was one of the sentiments that I brought in when I introduced Vivian. You know, I told everybody that I got a chance to bring my team to Uganda with Vivian a few months prior. And that what struck me the most was that when we got there, it wasn't about Vivian. It was about the half a dozen women leaders on the ground that were Ugandan women leaders. They were the ones on the microphones. They were the ones standing up in front of hundreds of girls, asking these girls to claim their bodies as their own. And Vivian had spent her time empowering the young adults of Uganda to lead the Just Like My Child organization. Vivian could go away tomorrow, and Just Like My Child has legs. It is living. And to me, that's the sign of the kind of organization I want to partner with. And that's the cleanness that we can bring to these fundraisers so that the people who are choosing to be a part of the fundraiser with us can see the bigger picture here. And I think that cleanness, it's like a lack of codependency. Can you guys feel it? It's a lack of codependency and it's an interdependency. That cleanness spills over into the healthy expression of being a woman entrepreneur. Because if we come from codependency as women entrepreneurs, we're constantly seeking approval outside of ourselves, from our clients, from our colleagues. But we have to realize that we can't just go be independent and just do it on our own. We can't. That's not how it works. We have to ask for support in these businesses. We are interdependent. I wouldn't be where I am in business without my friend Vivian. And I'm guessing that there's been some times that I've supported Vivian as well, just knowing our history and what our state of mind has been at times when we've reached out on the phone to each other, really needing someone to stand for us in that moment. None of you guys can do this alone. Okay. So be quicker to ask for help, be quicker to know that you're interdependent with other leaders in this business. You're not going to be able to do it alone. And when we come from that place as humanitarians and from a fundraising perspective, I think that it stays really clean. And Vivian, would you like to add anything and maybe even show the video? What do you think?
I think that's such a beautiful sentiment, Sage, in terms of, for me, of course, my whole intention, and Just Like My Child Foundation's whole intention, is to empower girls to transform their own lives, to empower communities to be able to transform their own worlds and communities. And, you know, just like as parents, we don't want to constantly be inputting into our kids. Our whole goal is to have them be independent and self-sustaining. And I think, you know, just energetically for me on the planet, that's been the most beautiful output of working with Just Like My Child and empowering women to really stand up for themselves. So yeah, so with that, I can share my video up.
Thinking that they are meant to be married off and taken by any other person. Girls grow up feeling that different parts of their bodies belong to their boyfriends, belong to their men. But in the GAPA project, we are saying these bodies belong to you. You have the power to control it. You have the power to decide who touches and who doesn't when the time comes. You have the power to decide that it's mine and I love it. To whom does it belong? To me! To me! To whom does it belong? To me! To me! To whom does it belong? To me! To me! To whom does it belong? To me! To me! To me! To whom does it belong? To me! To me! To whom does it belong? To me! To me! To whom does it belong? To me! To me! To whom does it belong? To me! To me! To whom does it belong? To me! To me! To whom does it belong? To me! To me! To whom does it belong? To me! To me! To whom does it belong? To me! To me! To whom does it belong? To me! To me! To whom does it belong? To me! To me! To whom does it belong? To me! To me! To whom does it belong? To me! To me! To whom does it belong? To me! To me! To whom does it belong? To me! To me! To whom does it belong? To me! To me! To whom does it belong? To me! To me! To whom does it belong? To me! To me! To whom does it belong? To me! To me! To whom does it belong? To me! To me! To whom does it belong? To me! To me! To whom does it belong? To me! To me! To whom does it belong? To me! To me! To whom does it belong? To me! To me! To whom does it belong? To me! To me! To whom does it belong? To me! To
So that's a pretty interesting treatment that I think when we shot this video, we just didn't really realize how foundational that message was going to be to not only the girls that we work with, but the communities and to the planet as a whole, you know, to really have bodily integrity, to know what our power is, to find the courage to unleash our voices. I think that for me, the most important thing in this alignment and in this partnership is that the way that women use their power is very, very different from the way that men use power. And what you're teaching in terms of women rocking business is finding this power within, which is really the foundation for our power as women. You know, when we feel good about ourselves, when we know that we're of value, then we bring it forth. And then we seek power with, which is basically seeking the sisterhood. So everything that we're doing here and empowering each other to step into a larger version of ourselves is what we teach girls in Uganda and all over the world. And then, so it's power within, power with, and then that enables women to have power to have domain over their environment, over the forces that impact them, to have to be leaders, to operate in a political sphere, which we see is so essential right now. And so I think this is really, you know, it's the metaphor. What we, you know, girl power is all over. And it's so important for us to step into that potential so that we can transform the future in the world.
100%. And that metaphor of power within, power with, and then power to is so helpful for us as entrepreneurs as well. You can see why Women Rocking Business and the Girl Power Project make a really good alliance with each other. You guys, I'm sure, can see that. And that's why Girl Power Project and Women Rocking Business have gone into a deeper partnership where it wasn't just a one-off fundraiser. Now we're looking for ways we can support each other more long-term. And as you all consider finding those organizations, I want to invite you to remember, write this down, what you stand for. Because when you are firmly rooted in what you stand for, you're never going to have to use pushy sales tactics another day in your life. Can you feel that? And so that spills over into the humanitarian cause that you may bring into your work. That spills over into the way you make an offer, the way you talk about your services. Because when you're clear on what you stand for, that's inarguable. People either want to be a part of that or they don't. There's no convincing. Can you feel that? And so that leads me to the next teaching point, which is that it's about the quality of the connection people feel to the fundraiser. It's not about the quantity. Okay. So, and that goes hand in hand with what you stand for and how you're standing with your audience. Remember that it's about you standing for something, and then it's about standing with your participants, because what you're doing is you're unifying the group around a common goal. And in a moment, we're going to talk about the third important strategy, which has to do with really tangibilizing your goals so that the group can unite around an intention. Right? Vivian and I got really clear that we wanted to push the group a little bit to see if we could raise 10 grand. And then we wanted to come up with a really clear reason why. What would that $10,000 do? Because we knew with a few hundred women on the lines that we could raise $10,000. We knew that that wasn't too much of a stretch, but we also wanted to position it so that it was a win for you and a win for us and a win for Just Like My Child. And that started by us, first of all, letting you off the hook, whether you donate $25 or $10 or $100. That's not what we care about. What we care about, right? What we care about is that we can make a difference for girls in Uganda, right? The video that we chose to show was inarguable. There's no woman I can think of that wouldn't want to stand for women having autonomy with their bodies. And so however you create that message, whether you create it with a video, if you partner with a humanitarian cause where they have a video where they can show their work through video, whether you create that through reading a quote or reading a passage from a book or through pictures. I showed some pictures of myself in Uganda. You've got to bring that energy of what the cause is to your participants. And then you've got to really stand in that quality of their connection to the cause. It's not just about your connection to the cause. It's about inviting them to feel whether this is something that matters to them, whether this is something they'd like to be a part of. And it's not about, pushing them for, hundreds or thousands of dollars. Vivian, do you want to add anything to that?
I think that what you were able to do there for us in terms of my fundraising background and know-how is the opportunity for you to show yourself in the mix. So Sage, having come to Uganda, having spent time there, it enables your community and your group to go there with you. It's not just some concept that's really far away. The credibility factor is hugely increased. It's like, oh my gosh, you were there. I can picture myself there. So I think really being able to show that what your active involvement has done, I think that is as humans, but particularly as women, we have such incredible fulfillment through service and through contribution that it just enables people to step on the path with you. They can envision themselves in that role. So I think that's a huge part. And I also just want to say, whatever it is that you're committed to or whatever you love to do, who you are being will be communicated. So whatever your passion is, whatever your service is, when you show up with it, people want to invest in it.
I totally agree 100%. And I love this piece of the conversation. And I also want to really remind us, it's not just about whether you've been to that country or not. It's not just about whether you've, met the people who are receiving the gift or not. We were able to raise $75,000 on a live stage before I had ever been to Uganda. And so the way that I did that was the way that I brought myself into that conversation was I told the audience what it was like for me the first time I sat across the table from Vivian, looking into her eyes and seeing the pictures that she was showing me of these girls in Uganda and hearing the stories. So that was my point of connection. But write this down. You need a point of connection to the cause. You're the facilitator of the event. You're the leader. So don't just hand over this moment to somebody who has a humanitarian organization and just trust them to make that transition. Are you guys picking up what I'm laying down? You have to connect yourself to it. And that's going to be the through line. So it can be a conversation you had with somebody involved with the organization. It can be a video you saw. But when you share with your audience, this is how that moment touched me. This is how that moment changed me. That's where the audience is going to go with you. And now whoever you're partnering with is now part of the community that you've created in that virtual event. They're not an outsider. And I've even done a fundraiser where I did most of the presentation myself, because there was a year when Lynn Twist was not able to come and be on stage with me because of health concerns. And so I pretty much put the presentation together. She had a staff member in the room, but I pretty much did it and raised $25,000 on her behalf. So I just want to say, if you're working with an organization where there maybe is not somebody who feels really comfortable on stage, you don't actually need that much from them if you're wanting to get creative on behalf of that organization. And of course, you can also do something easy like partner with Vivian or Jenny from Just Like My Child, right? Or partner with an organization that has some chops in doing this kind of fundraising. And that will also make it easier on you. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about the third key here, because the third key to having this kind of a fundraiser go well is to create tangible goals. And there's one more piece to this too. So the third key to really doing this well is to create tangible goals and social proof, a way that people can let you know they are donating. So let's talk about the tangible goals first. So when Vivian and I determined that we really wanted to go for at least a $10,000 fundraise, I asked Vivian, what can we do with $10,000? How many girls can we make a difference for with $10,000? And she went and she crunched some numbers, and she came back and she said to me, we can put 200 girls through our financial empowerment training with $10,000, right? That's 200 girls that get to learn how to save money, make money, how to be a smart businesswoman, and how to protect themselves if a man comes at them, like on the way to the borehole, on the way to go fetch water, and some man comes at them wanting to use their bodies for his good. They know what to do. They have the skills, they have the tools to stop that attack or stop that action that's being taken. So I got really excited. 200 girls, that's a lot of girls. I got excited, and that excitement was important to the fundraiser, because if I'm excited, you all can feel my excitement. The audience can feel my excitement, right? And so do you want to say a little bit more about this piece, Vivian, and we can show them the website as well?
Sure. I think that, again, throughout my history of fundraising here, the ability to be really tangible about an outcome is hugely beneficial. So if we know it's going to cost $50 a girl to put her through X number of hours of training, or if you know that $100 will put her through 2 years of training, and this will be the outcome, and here is the proof, that is super, super important. And at some point, I'd like to get a little bit of feedback about what was it that sort of triggered your heart opening and commitment. And I think we're going to get to talk about this a little bit. But do you want me to bring up the site?
Yeah, that'd be great. So the other piece to this, you guys, is it wasn't just about, okay, so it's not just about what we can do with $10,000. It's also about what can you give your audience if they donate at different levels, right? This is a level of thinking through ahead of time. It's a level of sophistication. You don't need a fancy website. You could pop this into a slideshow. You could write this up on a flip chart, in the way that you guys see me do sometimes. But having something that your participants get when they donate is really powerful. So both of those things were strategized: how much money we were hoping to raise and what we wanted to be able to do for those of you that donated. So yeah, Vivian, let's pop up the website, and then I'll get you guys some screenshots as well here.
I just want to say that this was being able to create this website is something that we internally took on as a project, and literally this took us 10 minutes to do, just in terms of getting the graphics up, or Jenny maybe took a little bit longer, but we've created an infrastructure through our platform that makes this super, super easy to do, like, and way preferable to things like Facebook, fundraising, etc. So you can see the totals are in here. We exceeded our goals. You're able to sort of show the imagery. And I think the thing that you really want to talk about, Sage, is some of the things that just sort of get you over the edge and like, yeah, there's a little ROI here if I give. I really want to give, but it's nice to have these benefits as well.
Yeah. So you guys can see that at the $25 level, you got a chance to take advantage of Vivian's amazing book, How to Change the World While You Work. For those of you that might be listening to this as a recording or a replay, you guys can go buy Vivian's book on Amazon, and I highly recommend it. It's called How to Change the World While You Work by Vivian Glyck. And if you donated $50, you got a chance to be a part of this incredible training. And if you donated $100, Vivian's team put a gorgeous strand of authentic Ugandan beads, a beautiful necklace, in the mail, and you got to receive that in the mail. And so, right, those were some wonderful little gifts and thank yous that we were able to give you on behalf of those donations. And some of those gifts didn't actually cost us a lot of extra money over here. It cost us some of our time, right? But we were able to serve all of you with this training. And it was a way to give to the girls, right? You see musicians doing this all the time. You know, famous musicians will gather together and do a concert as a fundraiser for a wonderful cause. And they're just giving their time. They're showing up and playing music. So you can all be thinking along these lines of, how do you give back to your donors? How could you have some different levels that people could reach toward? It's pretty cool what can happen, because then you can push toward a goal like $2,000 or $5,000 or $10,000 or $50,000 with a lot more confidence that you can actually create that. I've got one more piece I want to share before we wrap up. I'm going to recommend for every single one of you guys that you start small, that you bring in a small fundraiser as part of a video challenge, a multi-day video challenge, or you could do it with your clients. We did a fundraiser a few months ago for an organization called Color of Change, and I did it at a client retreat. You know, we had 170 clients on the line, and I've done this with 20 clients. And we just decided we wanted to raise some money for racial awareness. And I offered a free training to anybody that was willing to give $25. And we raised like $3,000, and it felt amazing, right? And so it's like everybody here can start somewhere, right? By just bringing in the storyline, bringing in your passionate heart, you know, gifting everybody some kind of extra access to you or to one of your colleagues. If people can just donate, you know, something really reasonable, like $25, you can just have one level. Any of you that can donate $25, I'd like to spend a few extra hours on the phone with you, helping you get X, Y, and Z outcome. And then boom, you can proudly go out to your audience and say, hey, I just did my first official fundraiser and we raised $1,500. We raised $3,000. It doesn't matter the amount. But another thing that also really helps is to think about within yourself, what is an amount that you can donate to kick off the donations? I would say that was the last important strategy that you should know, is that anytime I've ever done a fundraiser, I always like to kick off the donations with some kind of a generous gift, right? I kicked off this particular fundraiser with a donation of $1,000. And so I said to all of you on the screens, we'd like to raise $10,000 and I'm putting down 1,000 right now. I've got my own skin in the game. So we're already 10% of the way there. Will you help me? You know, would you help me raise the remainder? And that's when you all were on fire. And Vivian very strategically set up her website so that when you donated, you could leave a little comment that you had donated. And so people could see that other women were donating. And the other thing that I did was I put up a sticker in the Facebook group. I put up one of those blocks of color in the Facebook group where the event was taking place. And I said, we're doing it. We're wanting to raise $10,000 for Just Like My Child. If you donate, will you let us know below? Right. And as we were doing the fundraiser and as I was explaining the $25 gift, the $50 gift, the comments thread was blowing up inside the Facebook group, and women were saying, I just donated. I'm in. I'm super happy to donate. I'm excited for the training with Vivian and Sage. And so then you guys saw each other donating. Are you guys with me on this? That social proof is really important. And if you have a small group, you can even prompt your team to help you start that off. I remember asking Leonard, who's here listening to this training, my sound guy, would you be willing to donate? And he said, heck yeah, I'll donate. And so I knew Leonard was going to pop a note in that Facebook thread that said, hey, I just donated. I had 2 other teammates that had agreed to me to make sure that they popped a note in that Facebook thread when they donated. And so I didn't have to feel like I was out on a little limb hoping somebody would donate. I already had set it up that there were going to be a few donors. And so right away, all of my participants could see that we were aligned on this. This was something that meant something to even more than just me. So you guys can set that up for yourself so you don't have to feel, quite so vulnerable about this. It's a really wise thing to do to actually just get yourself that backup. Sweet, sweet, sweet. I love this conversation. And for those of you who are curious about Women Rocking Business programs, please email support@sagelevine.com. That's support@sagelevine, SAGELAVINE.com. Sage Levine with an A. You can email us and we can let you know what we have going on right now. And for those of you that would like to partner or get more involved with Just Like My Child, you guys definitely reach out. What's the best email, Vivian, for folks to get in touch with you guys?
I'll just put it in the chat. It's info@justlikeMyChild. We actually look at it. So
Vivian's got an amazing team. And as you guys can see, they are an amazing partner and an amazing organization to partner with. For those of you, and I know you all do, care about girls and may see an opportunity to partner with Just Like My Child in the future.
And don't kid yourself, for those of you who are looking to approach other organizations, how much power you give them when you show up and say, I want to help, I want to serve. So
it does not matter how big your business is. When you would like to bring in an organization and just help them out and let people know what they're up to, it's a huge gift to everybody.
Yeah.
So congratulations for being on your path. Keep resourcing yourselves. I don't know about you, but I have needed more saltwater baths, more girlfriend time with friends, more hugs with my kitties, because it's a really critical time on the planet. There's a lot of energy moving. So please, for the love of your clients, take care of yourselves, keep resourcing yourselves, treat yourself like the goddess that you are, and keep making that commitment to show up fully and make a difference in the lives of your clients. And let's give a big wahoo, and Vivian and I will see you on the other side.
Hey, thanks everybody.
And if you got value from this episode, I invite you to hit the subscribe button so that we can get you weekly business trainings in your inbox to help you grow your impact and your income the women's way. Head over into the Women Rocking Business Sisterhood Facebook group and introduce yourself there, because women go so much further when we go together. Just click the button to subscribe and we will see you on the other side.